Campaign 2013, the Nassau County Executive Debate, sponsored by WCBS-TV, WLNY-TV 1055, and WCBS News Radio 880. Here is your moderator, Christine Johnson.
Hello and welcome from our studios here at the CBS Broadcast Center. In just a few days, voters will decide who will be the next Nassau County Executive. And the candidates debating here today have both held that office. We welcome former Nassau County Executive Tom Suozzi and Ed Mangano, the current County Executive. Gentlemen, thank you for being here with us today. And with me to question the candidates, my colleagues here at CBS 2, Marcia Kramer, and Mike Zirinax, Long Island Bureau Chief for WCBS News Radio 880. Our debate, by the way, is being produced in cooperation with the Fair Media Council. Now, the candidates will have 1 minute to answer each question and 30 seconds for the rebuttal. And by coin toss, Mr. Mangano gets the first question. Mr. Mangano, the Nassau County District Attorney and also the State Attorney General are currently looking into whether or not that there was corruption in the way that lucrative cleanup contracts were awarded after Sandy. Many contracts were given to people who contributed to your campaign. In fact, in one case, we have some video here. Hundreds of trees were cut down at great cost. Are these favors for favors?
Absolutely not. And as a matter of fact, all the accusations emanate from my opponent and his party. So they've all been unfounded. And clearly everything has gone by the book. We've complied with all the law. And most importantly, we recognize having the most comprehensive auditing system in Hurricane Sandy. Each and every tree that was taken down, there was a photo taken of it beforehand. It was signed off by a supervisor. It is on a searchable database and all complies with the law.
Mr. Suozzi, do you see anything wrong with awarding contracts to campaign donors?
Well, let's let the Attorney General and the District Attorney and the federal agencies that are investigating this problem right now give us the proper answer regarding this issue. What my concern is that during Hurricane Sandy, when you gave a $70 million contract to Looks Great Services, they were cut. Most of the devastation was on the south shore of Nassau
Mr. Suozzi, my question was, do you see anything wrong with giving those contracts to campaign donors?
Well, contracts are given to campaign donors all the time, and sometimes donors give you money based upon the fact that they want to keep a good relationship with the administration. In this instance, a little unusual in that there's $70 million worth of contracts, and they're large contributors.
But haven't you also given contracts to donors during your...
Yes, I have. I just said it. It happens all the time. That's true, yes.
Okay, Mr. Mangano, I'm going to give you a 30-second rebuttal there.
Well, that particular contract was actually a contract awarded under my predecessor's term, and that's what we stuck with, because instead of just selecting somebody randomly, this was a contractor that actually won a bid, and we used him through that process because they were prepared to handle the devastation. And by the way, you really have to focus on the great job that's been done. All of the debris was collected and moved off this island before the end of the year. We averted health hazards. We did it in a proper way with a comprehensive auditing system.
All right, Mr. Mangano, I'm going to have to cut you off right there. Our next question is from Marcia Kramer.
Well, this question is to both of you. Mr. Suozzi, you get to go first. In the wake of Superstorm Sandy, the Long Island Power Authority is going to be taken over by New Jersey-based PSE&G. I'm wondering, if you're elected, how will you make certain that Nassau County gets the priority service that it deserves and not become the orphan child of a New Jersey company if there's another emergency?
Well, really, the Long Island Power Authority did a terrible job, and that's why the governor moved to make this change. But it's important for us to look at where we are 1 year after Hurricane Sandy. We still have no master plan as to how we're going to deal with the issues of our coastline, with how we're going to deal with utilities protection, how we're going to deal with raising our infrastructure. That's why I was endorsed by the League of Environmental Voters and the Environmental Voters Forum and the Sierra Club.
Mr. Suozzi, how do you get PSE&G, which is New Jersey-based, to not make Nassau County the orphan child?
Well, we're going to have to just constantly stay on top of them as we would with any single issue where there's an outside company doing business within our borders. The reality is that most of their employees are on site in Nassau County and in Long Island, in Suffolk County, and we just have to pay attention to it the way you do with every single large issue that you have to deal with in a multi-billion-dollar enterprise.
Mr. Mangano?
Yeah, communication. I've already met with PSNG several times. I've already been on site with them just last week. We've pushed for raising their substations to protect against flooding. We have 26 substations on the plan to be mitigated, and we actually achieved one in Long Beach already raised above the floodplain. And we have to hold their feet to the fire, get the work done, get the mitigation going, which is occurring right now, and develop those relationships, which I've been very good at.
Do you have any reservations about this? I mean, you've been meeting with them, and let's face it, they're based in New Jersey.
Yeah. Well, look, there's always concern, but LIPA did a terrible job, clearly in communication to our citizens. PSE&G has promised that communication, and again, I have now visited with them, looked at their work. They are mitigating here. They're putting the investment in. They're putting in the flood walls already. You can visit the substation in Long Beach like I did, and you'll see the significant work that's already underway. So I am encouraged, but you know, we remain cautiously optimistic as they move forward to undertake securing our power here on Long Island.
Mike Ziernex has our next question.
This question also to both of you, and perhaps the most significant issue in Nassau County, probably all of Long Island, property taxes. Have you ever filed a grievance to get your property tax assessment lowered? If so, how many times have you done it? Were you successful? If so, how much money did you get back? And if the answer is no, why? Do you have that much trust in the system?
That's to Mr. Mangano first.
Yes,
Mangano.
I've never filed a grievance, primarily because I was a legislator for 14 years and as county executive. Because, you know, the mere fact is if you get a reduction, you're criticized for it. So I have never done it, but it is something, obviously, the system provides for. New York State law provides for grievances each and every year, and every elected official encourages all our residents to grieve their taxes. If you're not satisfied with the assessment that comes to your home, you have the absolute right to grieve, and I make certain that you can be heard before demanding payment, and you can obtain your correction before demanding payment. Saves $30 million a year.
So you clearly trust the system, since you haven't.
I clearly are in a unique situation as an elected official, and I chose not to do it to avoid criticism of getting a refund from a government I serve in.
Mr. Suozzi?
I haven't filed for a grievance either because I'm an elected official, but the reality is Mr. Mangano should have filed for a grievance because his taxes have gone up by $2,800 in the past 2 years alone because of what he's done to the assessment system. At the same time the property tax came into place, he developed a new system in the county of freezing the assessments. Then, subsequent to that, he gave away unwarranted reductions to 8 out of 10 people that filed for a grievance and gave massive reductions to commercial property tax owners. It shifted the burden from residential owners, from commercial owners onto residential owners. There has been a 19% average tax increase for school taxes in Nassau County in the past 2 years alone, despite the fact we have a property tax cap, which so many people have fought for, including myself, which should be limiting taxes to no more than 2 or 3% a year. But instead, there's been a 19% average tax increase. Mr. Mangano's house alone, 24% increase, $2,800.
As a follow-up, let's stick with this subject for a moment, because it's so important, and again, to both candidates, Mr. Mangano first.
Can I get a rebuttal on that?
Well, you
Actually,
can...
yes,
Shouldn't
okay.
I get a rebuttal?
Definitely.
I mean, well, other than that being completely inaccurate, here's the truth. Under New York State law, the assessment system cannot raise not one more dollar than a school district asks for. So if they ask for a 3% increase, that's all the dollars they could achieve from the assessment system. The fact that you can grieve is guaranteed under New York State law. County executive cannot take that away. The only difference that we do is give the people their day in court so they can have their grievance heard before demanding payment. We've ended the overpayment. That saves everybody $30 million. To suggest somebody went up in that same school district, then one or two people had to go down, unless, of course, the school district has asked for more money from our residents.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mangano. Our next question is directed to Mr. Suozzi first. Sky-high taxes and whether they will go even higher are an overriding concern for residents in Nassau County. So will you commit here today to not raising taxes, property taxes, and reinstituting the 4% tax on heating oil and gas if you should win this election?
Well, I'll certainly not reimpose the energy tax, as it's called. It was a bad idea, and it didn't work out well. Regarding the property tax, you can't raise property taxes above the property tax cap. I fought very hard for that. I was chairman of the New York State Commission on Property Tax Relief, appointed by 2 governors, and Governor Cuomo passed it into law. The problem is that our property taxes are still going up dramatically. Mr. Mangano's whole campaign is that he didn't raise property taxes, but people's property taxes are going up dramatically because of the mess he's made of the assessment system. That's not just me saying that. That's the New York Times, that's Newsday, that's the Long Island Herald. Mr. Mangano caused significant tax increases. In his answer to the previous question, he didn't rebut the fact that his taxes at his house have gone up $2,800, much more than the 3% that the Bethpage School District requested, because he made a mess of the assessment system.
Mr. Mangano, will you commit to not raising those?
Absolutely. I've declared war on property taxes. I eliminated his home energy tax, which was a bad idea, hurt our economy. I eliminated his planned 16.5% real property tax increase. And as he was fighting for the cap, he actually raised Nassau County taxes double the cap at 4%. So look, you just have to look at the records. I am a tax fighter, a tax cutter, and I do what I say and live through it.
Marcia Kramer.
Well, this question is also to both of you, but we're going to start with Mr. Mangano first. Sure. I wonder if you think that the county can help fix the worst school district in the entire state. That would be the Hempstead School District, where this reading list was sent home that had the book The Great Gatsby listed as The Great Gypsy. Would you consider reallocating funds for that district and to send students to a successful district like maybe Garden City?
Well, first, unfortunately, Nassau County has zero jurisdiction with respect to school districts. We can support them with certain funding through our CBGB program and other programs. We'd be happy to work with them, you know, in that regard. But we have zero jurisdiction with respect to directing the school districts. It would have to either be the state or the local school board. But obviously, very alarmed at that.
Would you if you can't do it specifically, would you support it or encourage it because there are such problems?
You know, clearly the problems in that magnitude really need to be looked into by the state, and a solution needs to be found immediately. So those children are well served and have the same level playing field to have access to a quality education that Nassau County is really known for.
Mr. Suozzi.
This is a clear difference between my opponent and I. He doesn't want anything to do with it because it's beyond his jurisdiction. But they're the children of Nassau County that are being lost in these troubled school districts that we have. And even though the county doesn't run the school district, we need to help them out. I tried to do this in the latter part of my last term, but I have a new ambitious program to deal with this. Not by spending more money, because there is no more money. There's no more federal money or state money or more property taxes or state aid. What we need to do is we need to identify the children whose test grades are about the same in third grade in wealthy school districts and in communities of color, and try and help those kids that start to see their grades drop off or get in fights or fall out of step with other kids, and try and bring in social services that exist in the county already from not-for-profits and county agencies, and bring them into the school district and help those children at a young age. In our communities of color, people are paying the same high property taxes as everyone else. They're just not getting the good services. And we need to step up to the plate and help these communities, not by spending more money, but by collaborating with each other to help these children so we don't lose a whole other generation of children to failing school districts.
Mr. Rankin, I'm going to give you a rebuttal on that because I want to know, is that possible?
The social services we provide are very robust, and they're in that school district, and they're provided, and of course we'd be willing to continue to work with the school district. But to duplicate and confuse people into thinking somehow we have a jurisdiction that can effectuate a change there on a state or local level is wrong. It's wrong. We have a boatload of work to do and the challenges that he left me here in the county. I have to stay laser focused to make certain our county continues to be a job generator and is affordable for our residents. And that's the job I do, and that's the job they elected me to do, and that's a jurisdiction that's bestowed on me.
Okay.
One last rebuttal, Mr. Suozzi.
I'd really like to rebut that. Thank you very much. 40% of the county's budget is for social services. 40% of our over $2.5 billion budget. And right now, a federal court has ordered that a special master be put in place in the social services department to oversee it, because of the fact that there's so many backlogs. And there's not a robust program that he's talking about. It's been totally ignored by this administration. The reality is that this administration has done nothing to focus on what is 40% of the county's budget and affects tremendous amounts of people. In fact, they laid off people in the social services department that are paid for through federal funds. It doesn't make any sense.
All right, Mr. Suozzi, thank you. Our next question from Mike Ziernax.
Again, a question for both of you, Mr. Suozzi. First, how is it possible that Nassau County, the richest county in the state, let me repeat that, the richest, the wealthiest county in the state, it's the only county with financial oversight right now because of its debt. How do you get out from under NIFA? How do you get out from under the Nassau County Interim Finance Authority? How are we going to do this?
You know, what happened in Nassau County is that we suburban sprawled and we stopped growing about 1990. And my predecessor, Tom Galata, kept on spending money as though we were still growing. And Nassau County in 1999, when the economy was booming in America, was on the brink of bankruptcy, rated one of the worst run counties in America, and its bond rating was lowered to one step above junk bond status. I balanced the budget in Nassau County. I had 8 surpluses. I had 13 bond upgrades, more than any other municipality in America. And when the financial crisis hit in 2008 and 2009, I kept the county stable. Mr. Mangano came in. He fought with NYFA. He's had 3 bond downgrades. He's on negative credit watch. And NYFA will not approve his budgets because they're so irresponsible. The New York Times, Newsday, and the Long Island Herald has referred to his budgets as fictional, smoke and mirrors. They don't make any sense whatsoever. We're not going to get out from under the control of a state board, which is actually embarrassing to the people of Nassau County under this administration, because they're living in an alternative universe where they don't realize what it takes to balance a budget. I can do that. I've done it before. I have a $100 million taxpayer savings plan to put us back on financial footing.
Mr. Mangano.
Well, there's more distortions in there than a minute can cover. But first of all, we're not on negative credit watch with S&P. We have an A+ rating, second highest bond rating in Nassau County's history, without taking a dime of your money, without his 23% tax increase, without his $400 million indebtedness, without the energy tax. And we steadily put forth a 4-year plan that will end the control period. They changed, the NYFA changed the accounting system when I came into office. Newsday's reported if he was subject to the same accounting system, it would be a control board a long time ago. We have a 4-year plan to address the $385 million deficit he left me without taking a dime from the taxpayers and moving towards NYFA's new high standard of accounting. That's the path to stay on.
Mr. Mangano.
I have a rebuttal?
I need to move on to the next question. I'm sorry, Mr. Suozzi. Regarding government reduction, Nassau County has some 56 school districts, 54 library districts, and more than 200 districts for fire, sanitation, water, sewers, and police. A lot of numbers there. Shouldn't they be consolidated and some dissolved to save some taxpayer money and making the districts more diverse?
Is it to me first?
This is to you first.
You know, certainly scholarly thought on that subject has taken place, and the fact of the matter is the suburban quality of life, the individual districts like this type of local government. If you look at all of those districts that you mentioned, they are governed by the citizens in those communities. They want those services. They protect their school districts. In Nassau County, they are very, very school district centric. They're very protective of them. That change would really have to come from the communities. If the communities want to consolidate the school districts and save some dollars for their residents that reside within those school districts. What we've done in the county is put forth a purchasing coalition that gives each school district, water district, fire district, the purchasing power of Nassau County. We've saved them a tremendous amount of money in terms of buying natural gas and paper and other supplies. So we're able to help them save money. And, you know, again, local governance here in Nassau County is very well respected by the communities that
real quickly, though, do you think that there's a reluctance here to consolidate because patronage jobs would be lost here?
No, I don't really think it's about patronage jobs at all. I think a school district is about school pride. It's about community pride. It's the football team. It's the teachers. It's the history and the rich history of the community and pride in the community. People identify with their school districts. You know, I still go back to my school district. I was just entered into the Hall of Fame in my school district. I love it. I would not want to see it, you know, consolidated or dissipated. And any residents in Nassau County, that's how they feel. You identify with it. It's part of your, you know, upbringing here, your suburban quality of life, your history, your memories. And I think that they're going to go on for a long, long time here in Nassau County.
Mr. Suozzi, should we see some consolidation?
So I'm going to just jump back to the previous question for a second regarding NYFA. There's a man on NYFA named George Marlin, who is the former chairman of Conservatives for Mangano. He worked very hard to defeat me and help Mr. Mangano. He's now on NYFA. He said Mr. Mangano and the county administration has been deceptive, delusional, and disingenuous when it comes to the budgets. Regarding collaboration, consolidation, it's not going to happen in Nassau County. We talked about it. We got beaten up about it. Consolidation is not going to happen, but collaboration can happen. The programs that Mr. Mangano talked about, joint purchasing natural gas, I started that program in 2008 when I was county executive. I received a $1 million grant from the state, the largest grant in New York State, and BOCES reported that it saved $9 million by getting school districts to work together on doing joint busing programs, on doing joint purchasing together. And we need to do more of that now. The school districts were fighting me in the old days. Now they want to do it. And they're so excited to have a change in this administration that they'll do whatever it takes to try and live within the property tax cap and save money and do collaboration. Consolidation is not going to be the answer, but collaboration must be done. I have a proven record of doing it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Suozzi. Marcia Kramer.
Mr. Suozzi, regarding Mr. Mangano's plan to merge police precincts, I'm wondering, was it worth the cost and effort or did it just jeopardize police safety in Nassau County?
It was a very poorly executed plan. When I left office, there were $36 million in overtime for Nassau County Police. Today, it's projected to be $61 million in overtime. Any savings he's gotten from headcount reduction, which has demoralized the police force, caused scandals in the police department, stopped a lot of training and supervision that's necessary. We've had more scandals in the past 3.5 years than the past 25 years in Nassau County. It's all been outweighed by this dramatic increase in overtime. I've already pledged that I'll reopen the 5th precinct. Now listen, I'm in favor of doing things that are smarter and better and will save money. But it's got to be done in a way that has support from the community, has support from the unions, has support from the employees, and a way that's communicated to the public. This was just shoved down people's throats without very little notice, and it hasn't worked. And the grant that he got from the state on this issue was a bogus grant because in reality it has not resulted in savings whatsoever.
Mr. Mangano, I'm wondering if you would go further with your consolidation.
No, all of this is thoughtful consolidation. I reduced the county workforce by 20%. That's 1,000 less paychecks that our citizens write each and every week here, 1,000 less pensions to fund for life, and 1,000 less health care benefits for life. In 2009, my opponent proposed laying off just 250 cops. We had a thoughtful plan. We studied the 8 precincts. Each precinct staffed the same exact way, irregardless of administrative work. We found that some precincts were doing twice the amount of administrative work than others, so I consolidated them. I saved 300 jobs there. The same amount of work is being done by half the amount of people. I put 50 more cops on the street. It was smart. It saved $30 million. With respect to overtime, he should know he negotiated the contract. There's 9% built-in overtime. It approaches $50 million. In the advent of the Boston Marathon, the fact is we had to boost up security here for our marathon, for the Belmont Stakes, and that costs money. But crime is down 10% since I took office. These are smart ways to go. We support intelligent-led policing where our streets are safer.
Mr. Suozzi, just curious, I mean, did crime go up or down in your opinion?
I'm sure that it went down in some places and went up in some places. Nassau County is one of the safest places in America. But if we continue to destroy our quality of life by cutting the cops down to dangerously low levels, by cutting the mental health programs and the drug and alcohol programs and the youth programs, when 75% of the people in jail have a drug or alcohol program, we're going to see a quality of life problem that exists in Nassau County. The only answer for the future is for us to grow. We must grow Nassau County. We must build more in our downtown areas so that we bring in the revenues that are necessary for us to pay for the cops, for us to pay for the parks, to pay for the roads, to pay for the schools.
All right, Mike, you have the next question.
Casinos, casino gambling, big money makers everywhere they exist. This question for both Mr. Mangano. First, if the state referendum passes, will you go to Albany and will you fight for a casino in Nassau County? And if so, where would it go?
There will be no casino in Nassau County, given the practicality that Aqueduct already has a radius. The proposition that's on the ballot, we're supporting it because it's for casinos upstate, but they will share revenue with us here downstate, and that'll help our school districts and municipalities. There will not be a casino achieved in Nassau County.
I've asked Mr. Mangano to commit that he'll put a provision in the lease with Mr. Ratner at the Coliseum that the Shinnecock Indians or any gambling will not be allowed at that site because Mr. Ratner and the Shinnecocks are both represented by Senator Alphonse D'Amato. And he can just say, I'm going to put a provision in the lease that there will not be casino gambling at that site. He's met with the Shinnecocks before about gambling at that site earlier on in his term. He can just get this over with. Now, right now, we have 1,000 video lottery terminals approved for Nassau County. And it's supposed to be built in the near future, but they're waiting until after the election to tell us where they're going to put it. Right now, there's a rumor that it's going to go in Plainview at the OTB facility, but that facility is not big enough. It'll have to be expanded. There'll have to be more parking. So if the referendum goes down, Nassau will get an additional 1,000 video lottery terminals. If it passes, we'll still get the 1,000 video lottery terminals. Those should only go where gambling exists currently, either at an OTB site or at Belmont Racetrack, and no other locations.
Mr. Mangano, will you put in that provision?
Yeah, Bruce Ratner has said it. I have said it. This is not more than an election day stunt because he's jealous because we were able to achieve a 100% privately financed
Just put it in the lease. Say you'll put it in the lease.
We'll put it in the lease. It doesn't matter. There will be not casino there. And, you know, he needs to make these little sound bites so we can get in the paper, blah, blah, blah. The bottom line is we've said it. No casino at the Coliseum, period. Why he attacks Senator D'Amato is childish. they're just baseless, just to get headlines. Let's move on into something productive.
I agree. Let's from casinos to coliseums now. Let's talk about that. Mr. Suozzi, I'm going to ask you this question first. The recently approved $229 million privately funded coliseum is a downsize. Taxpayers, developers, and the town of Hempstead said no, actually, to a larger project. Would you bring back a more ambitious project? And if so, how are we going to pay for that?
I absolutely would bring back a more ambitious project. Mr. Mangano, when he lost the Islanders and he tried to do a referendum for $450 million to be borrowed by the taxpayers to pay for a new Coliseum, went out and asked Mr. Ratner, who had taken the Islanders to the Barclays Center, said, Mr. Ratner, what do you think we should do at the Coliseum? I'll serve as a volunteer, Mr. Ratner said. And he said, I think you should make it a smaller Coliseum that can't hold a national franchise anymore. The fact that he was represented by Senator D'Amato, I'm sure, is irrelevant. Then there was a bidding process, and the contract was awarded, surprise, to Mr. Ratner. And the project is just to redo the Coliseum, not to redevelop the 77 acres around the property. Because of the previous process that you mentioned, the town of Hempstead has approved 5 million square feet of construction on that 77 acres. This plan is to do 100,000 square feet of construction. We need to make this a destination point that expands our tax base, that attracts young people, that brings in new sales tax revenues, and creates jobs. That's what Nassau County needs. I'll move forward with Mr. Ratner's project, but I'm going to hold him more accountable that it's a more ambitious project that uses up this entire 77 acres of property.
Mr. Mangano, you know, history does show that small arenas have actually failed economically. So does this mean that Long Island will forever be condemned as second-rate, you know, without a major league team?
First of all, absolutely not. Number one, he ought to disclose his little sour grapes because his former employer lost the bid to Ratner. All right, and his major campaign contributor of $275,000, Cablevision and Dolan, you know, they lost to Ratner. Okay, a unanimous decision. The Forest City Ratner deal was the best economics for the people of Nassau County. It is in size, will be the same size as the existing Coliseum. It could easily be expanded back to 16,000 seats. It will be 13,000 seats. It is 100% privately funded. It'll provide a foundation for further development that we're studying right now. So that third phase is coming, and it's going to come to fruition because we have raised the value of the property by having phase 1 and phase 2 done. A 100% privately financed, world-class, iconic Coliseum. We should all be proud, unanimously approved by both Republicans and Democrats, that this was the best value for the people of Nassau County. I'm proud, and it's only the beginning of major growth that we'll take there.
Mr. Suozzi?
You know, Mr. Mangano talks about my largest contributor. His largest contributors are from the residential tax cert bar that he hired to come in as a special task force to tell him how to fix the assessment system. They've ruined the assessment system. They've made millions of dollars, and they've contributed over $500,000 in contributions to his campaign. The reason your property taxes are going up, despite Mr. Mangano's signs all over the county saying, thank you, Ed Mangano, for not raising our taxes, the reason your taxes are going up is because they've made a mess of the assessment system, and they've caused a 19% increase in your school taxes alone. Your county taxes, your town and village taxes are going to go up also because of this mess of the assessment system.
Mr. Mangano, a rebuttal, 30 seconds.
Just impossible. In 2009, Tom Suozzi said Nassau County has nothing to do with school taxes. That's true. New York state law does not allow the assessment system to raise not one more dollar than the school districts ask for. This is only election campaigning nonsense because he raised taxes, I cut taxes. He brought Nassau County to the lowest sales tax revenue in a 20-year period. I enjoy the largest growth in sales tax revenue in the entire region. We have the lowest unemployment rate in the region. He had the highest unemployment rate in the region because our policies of keeping more money in the residents' pockets is working.
Marcia Kramer.
Well, gentlemen, this is what we call our Be Nice Boys question. It's to both of you, and I'd like to see if each one of you can find something nice to say about the other guy. Mr. Mangano, you get to go first. Something nice about Mr. Suozzi.
Well, I think Tom is he's very articulate. He does great with the newspapers. He's a charming person, and you know, off of camera, we do have some very fine conversations.
You did say last time that I did a good job my first term. You left that out this time.
Well, I had to add the other part, how you messed it up in your second term. So
let me just point out that Mr. Mangano showed a lot of empathy and a lot of sympathy during Hurricane Sandy, and I think that he was very good with the people during the storm itself.
All right, Mike Zeranax, you have the next question.
Yeah, Mr. Mangano, this is to Mr. Suozzi. Mr. Mangano likes to point out how you were kicked out of office 4 years ago. They didn't give you another shot. They went in a different direction, in fact, a Republican direction, the man standing beside you. What makes you think they want you back now?
You know, I didn't work hard enough in the last election. I didn't take it seriously. The polls showed me ahead by 25 percentage points. I took my eye off the ball, and I wasn't watching, like everybody else wasn't watching, what was going on in the country. Everybody was mad at what was going on in the country. Unemployment was raging at the time. The Tea Party was growing. Mr. Mangano was going around to Tea Party rallies saying, I'm a proud Tea Party conservative. And a lot of people showed up to vote for him because he went to those rallies. And he still is a Tea Party conservative, but I don't think it's going to help him the way it helped him last time. And I'm working much harder than I did last time. I'm not going to lose by 386 votes again. I'm going to work every single day, as long as I possibly can, to let the voters know that I think I'm the best person for this job. I want to do this job. I want to serve my full 4-year term, and I need their vote on November 5th.
Mr. Mangano, you get to respond to this in that he anticipated my question because he likes to accuse you of this. Are you a Tea Partier, like he claims? And also, did you support the government shutdown, and will you support another one?
First of all, let me make it clear. I did not support the government shutdown. I stood with Peter King. I stood with Chuck Schumer. So this is all election day nonsense. Listen, he had an 8-year record. I have a 4-year record. I asked you just to look at the facts. This is a very easy election for residents to make an informed decision just by looking at our accomplishments, okay? Again, 8 years in office, his State of the County speech in 2009 was, things are about as bad as they can get. That's after all that money, the tax increases, the debt increases, the energy tax, the $400 million in indebtedness, and we had the lowest on it. We had the lowest sales tax revenue in a 20-year period. Jobs were fleeing Nassau County. People have money to spend in Nassau County. Unemployment rate high. Housing values down. 4 years in office, all of those statistics have changed. Largest growth in sales tax revenue, lowest unemployment rate in the region.
But yes, do you support the Tea Party?
It's not about support. The Tea Party is supporting me in the sense that they agree high taxes kills jobs. Just the way the Working Families Party support Tom. I'm sure he doesn't agree with every one of their platforms. He just tries to inflame people. It's wrong. My record stands for itself. I'm here to represent the people.
Okay, Mr. Mangano made it clear in the New York Times that he's happy to have Tea Party support on all the social issues as well as the Conservative Party social issues. And he went to the rallies and told everybody, I'm a proud Tea Party conservative on a regular basis. And regarding 2009, it was the worst economy in the history of America since the Great Depression.
Mr. Mangano, I'll give you one quick rebuttal there, and then we'll move on.
This is such a nonsense. I enjoy the support. They support me, and they agree that his policies of raising taxes and driving jobs out of Nassau County was bad for every Nassau County resident, period.
All right, let's talk about term limits, shall we? There are term limits for president and for the mayor of New York City, although Mayor Bloomberg will have a little asterisk, you know, next to his term. But do you think that there's going to be, or should be, term limits for Nassau County Executive? And this goes to you, Mr. Mangano, first.
I think the job itself tends to provide term limits. But I'm happy to discuss that. I think we should discuss, you know, term limits. I think we should discuss campaign reform, campaign finance reform.
Do you think there should be term limits?
I think that a reasonable amount of term limit is warranted, yeah. 2? Yeah. Maybe 3.
Okay. Mr. Suozzi, your opinion?
I've historically not been in favor of term limits. I don't think term limits are a good idea because you can lose good people and good jobs. And again, the voters are pretty good about deciding what they think the right thing to do is, and we can leave it up to the voters to make their decisions. I have, however, started to change my position regarding the state legislature because I'm concerned at the state legislative level and at the federal legislative level that despite the fact there's so much dissatisfaction by the public with these two legislative bodies that everybody still keeps on getting reelected, 90% reelection rates, even when everybody's mad about the legislative bodies that exist. So I think that needs to be looked at much more closely, and I would support that if it was proposed.
All right, we would like to give you both an opportunity now to ask each other a question. Mr. Suozzi, you go first.
You know, I've been waiting for this opportunity. I'm actually excited about this question. And Mr. Mangano has been spending millions of dollars doing TV commercials, attacking me about the property taxes, and I've made the point clear that he's raised the property taxes dramatically. But he's also been attacking me about a $65,000 raise. Now, that $65,000 raise was a bipartisan commission that recommended that the Nassau County Executive, the Comptroller, the District Attorney, and the Clerk all be paid the same as Suffolk County. And when the financial crisis hit, I gave back $12,000. Mr. Mangano neglects to tell you he's taking the exact same salary. So I'm asking you, Ed, now, will you give back the $65,000 a year? And are you taking the $65,000 a year? And if you're so against it...
Is it a question or is it a statement?
It's a question.
Is it a question or a statement?
It's a question.
Here's the...
You've taken the money But you say you're against it. You've been running millions of dollars of commercials. Will you give the money back?
Ask for the question?
Will you give the money back?
Here's the bottom line is I ran on that salary. I did accept the salary, but the fact of the matter is I've turned down every automatic raise that he hid in this. I've given up $52,000 in raises since I am in office, and that's how much money would have been accumulated over this 4-year period. So we work hard, 6-7 days a week. But most importantly, we're saving the taxpayer dollars.
Okay, but you're saying that the salary is appropriate for you. Yes, it is a debate. It's called a debate.
You know what?
You said the salary is appropriate for you.
You're moderating?
You spent $2 million in it.
You know what, Mr. Suozzi, with all due respect, we do have to keep some decorum here.
This is a big issue.
So it certainly is, and that was your chance to ask for a question from Mr. Mangano.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mangano,
he made that salary statute.
Mr. Mangano, it's now your turn to ask Mr. Suozzi a question.
Sure. Tom, why'd you sell out the taxpayers in your last 4 years of office by hiring so many out-of-county employees in a trail to Albany, from congresspeople's wives to cronies that cost our taxpayers dearly?
I hired people for the county of Nassau in a way that made it one of the most dramatic turnarounds in the history of the United States of America. I received an award from Governing Magazine as a public official of the year in the country for the turnaround that we did in Nassau County. We balanced every budget. We had 8 surpluses. We had 13 bond upgrades, more than any other municipality in America. And NYFA was fading out of existence. And for all your talk about the things you've accomplished, NYFA board members say you're deceptive, delusional, and disingenuous. You've been taken over by a state control board. You've had 3 bond downgrades, and you're on negative credit watch. So you're not performing. You're not reducing costs. You're increasing costs.
Marcia Kramer, I'm going to yield the floor to you.
I should rebut that whole thing there.
Well, actually, we're going to go to the next question, which is to both of you. But Mr. Mangano, you get to go first.
Oh.
Do you think that Nassau County should raise the legal age for purchasing cigarettes, which is now 19? And I should tell you that New York City has just raised its legal age to 21.
Right. You know, again, another issue that Nassau County doesn't have jurisdiction in. I would have to give it some thought. I am very concerned when we start limiting civil rights, when you can send a person to war, you can send a person to serve our country, and now you want to restrict, you know, there are other options in life. You know, certainly this is a health issue, and we certainly encourage, you know, our citizens to be as healthy as possible. But, you know, passing laws that restrict rights when, again, we send these young men and women off to serve our country, I have great reserve for.
Mr. Suozzi.
I would absolutely support raising the age for purchasing cigarettes to protect our children. There are billions of dollars that have been spent for a long time marketing cigarettes and convincing young people to smoke them. I think that we need to do what we can to protect them. It's ruining their lives. The reality is Nassau County was one of the first county in New York State to actually prohibit indoor smoking at restaurants in the Nassau County Legislature. We can take leadership on this issue once again. It's a very good idea to do it. It'll save lives. It'll reduce health costs. And I would like to also see us restrict the smoking in our parks as well, so that people can't smoke in the parks.
Mike Zirinax.
Question to both. Mr. Suozzi first. What was at one time thought was only a city problem has become truly a suburban nightmare. We're talking about the abuse of prescription drugs. Oxycodone is one of them. The problem just exploding, especially across Long Island. Destroyed lives, ripped apart families, users, whether they were users or not. The families have been deeply affected by this. Violent crimes. We don't have to get into what's happened on Long Island over the past couple of years. What will you do? What can you do, separate from law enforcement, to help this problem?
That question is Mr. Suozzi first.
Well, one of the most important things that we need to do is educate people about the dangers of these type of drugs. And a lot of families have prescription drugs that have been heavily prescribed sitting in their medicine cabinets. And what happens is their kids end up taking them. There are pill parties where they actually hand out these drugs at parties and take the drugs. And what happens is you become addicted to the Oxycontin, for example, and then what happens is you can't afford to buy that, you can't get the prescription, and then you get hooked on heroin, which is the same type of high, but it's much, much cheaper. So this is a very serious issue that we need to educate people that this could affect any family. Any family can be affected by this. This is not junkies in the alleyway shooting up the way we saw in the movies in the 70s and 80s. This is kids that can take a pill, they can smoke it. There's so many different things that are happening.
So how do you do that, though?
You do it with the district attorney and the police department and educational processes. And we started a program when I was in office where we actually had people bring in their prescription drugs in their medicine cabinets to throw them away. We don't want them flushing them down the toilet because it's bad for the waterways when they go through the sewage treatment plant. Bring them to us, we'll dispose of them appropriately, and educate people about the dangers of these drugs and their addictive nature.
Mr. Mangano.
You know, I put forth a three-pronged plan. Education, awareness, and enforcement has made a tremendous impact in this particular area. First, with all our pharmacies, we have a comprehensive education and enforcement program where we've trained them to protect themselves and protect their clients. There's now a registry that we work with through the Attorney General, also with respect to these drugs. Most importantly, we do have to accept the reality that there's not one community that's exempted from being impacted by this terrible drug use. Families across Nassau County. So we launched Narcan training, but Narcan training is a life-saving drug if administered shortly after an overdose. We provide it free of charge to parents. We hold the seminar, we give them the training, and we provide them the Narcan. We have saved so many lives with so many success stories, and then we get them in the programs that we have funded, and there are many, many programs to help young people kick this terrible habit and give them a second chance on life, in addition to working with our court system, which now has a very robust diversion.
You know, okay.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Your time is up. It is. Our next round, we like to coin the lightning round.
The lightning round.
Yes. Mr. Mangano,
yeah.
Last time you rode the LIRR, when was that and from where to where?
I rode it to Hicksville to Manhattan.
All right.
And for a play.
Oh, very nice.
Okay.
Mr. Suozzi?
Manhasset to Penn Station in order to come in for a fundraising meeting.
And when was that?
In the past 2 months.
Very nice. Mr. Suozzi, what do you think about the Long Island Expressway HOV lane? Should we just turn that into a fourth lane?
Absolutely not. We have to encourage people to try and carpool, use hybrid cars. We should not get rid of that, no.
Should we get rid of it, Mr. Mangano?
No, not at this time, but really should study whether the traffic flow would improve and whether it's working.
Mr. Mangano, what's your favorite song?
Days Like This by Van Morrison.
Can you, come on, sing us
My
a few
mama
bars.
told me it'd be days like this.
Mr. Suozzi, your favorite song?
You're nobody till somebody loves you.
And I hear you have quite the voice.
You're nobody till somebody loves you.
Okay, Nassau County icons. Let's address that. You know, the county has a county bird, the osprey, and they also have a county flower, and that is the bird's foot violet. So should the county also have a motto? Mr. Suozzi, you go first here.
The best county in the country.
Mr. Mangano?
Making Nassau County more affordable.
Marcia Kramer, yield the floor to you.
Okay. Well, you've both talked about the need to make Nassau County more attractive to young people, to deal with the flight of young people from Nassau County. But, you know, it's just too easy to say create more jobs. I wonder what specific concrete steps, what big idea you would have to create the kind of environment that would keep young people in Nassau County and would create jobs that would attract them to stay home.
So
Mr. Suozzi, you do go first.
So the main thing that needs to happen is we need to change our zoning in our downtown areas. 95% of Nassau County should remain the suburban paradise it is, with single-family homes and parks and beaches. But in 5% of our downtown, we need to go up. We need to build offices, we need to build apartment buildings with restaurants and shops on the first floor, nearby train stations. To do that, we need to change our zoning. So I've proposed the new Suburbia Trailblazers Award, where I'll pick one village or town in 2014, 2 in 2015, 3 in 2016, 4 in 2017, so we'll have 10 communities after 4 years, where if they decide they want to make a cool downtown, we'll help them with the money necessary to hire the planners and the engineers and the attorneys to change their zoning. I helped this in Farmingdale, I helped this in Mineola, I helped it in Glen Cove when I was county executive. We need to do it in other places like Freeport and Hicksville and in Lynbrook and in Valley Street, in places that want to do this. That's why it'll be a competition. And we'll help them navigate the bureaucratic maze to get infrastructure help from the state and the federal government. But the key is for private developers to build these office buildings and apartments in downtown areas.
Mr. Mangano, you own a bright gold Corvette. Does that car and its color reflect your personality and who you are?
Absolutely. I'm just an enthusiast of classic cars, and this was a car I bought that was in very ill repair. And when my son was 11 years old, and over the last 10 years, you know, we work on it each year. It's been a great bonding experience, such a wonderful community of car enthusiasts here in Nassau County. I just really do enjoy it. It holds, you know, significant memories for me with my sons growing up and getting dirty, working on the engine and other things.
And what is your vision of the county?
My vision of the county, in addition to the job growth to keep young people here, and we've had tremendous job growth under my administration, is obviously to provide housing options and entertainment. While my opponent has talked about transit-oriented development during his entire last term, I achieved it in just 4 short years by creating an incentive plan to convert empty office buildings into apartments. We have 4 under construction now, 850 units, all with an affordable ability component, and they are all at train stations. In addition, the hub, I've added an entertainment district there that's really going to continue to attract young people as a real destination to have fun, to hang out, to recreate.
Unfortunately, cut you off there. Your time is up, Mr. Suozzi. It's all right. Do you have a toy car, so to speak?
I don't have any toy cars. I've got we had 2 dogs. One dog just passed away, unfortunately. But I just want to talk about 1 second for what Mr. Mangano was talking about, job creation. The jobs that have been created in Nassau County since Mr. Mangano has been the county executive have been $11 jobs and not $30 jobs. They've been jobs in food services. Now, this is not directly related to him. This is related to the world economy, the national economy, and the fact that Nassau County has not been growing since 1990. There needs to be a dramatic change in the vision of Nassau County to build up these downtown areas. Mr. Mangano has not been doing this. He's been majoring in the minors, playing small ball. We need a grand vision of developing our downtowns that requires a zoning change that's a change from the way it's been there since Levittown was built in 1947. We need to preserve 95% of our land mass with our single-family homes and our parks and our beaches. But in our downtowns, we need to build in ways that we haven't before, because we need to expand the tax base to bring in more money because our property taxes are too high. We need to bring in more sales tax revenues. We need to create jobs, and we need to create environments that young people want to move here. If you're a 20-something-year-old college graduate, you're moving to Brooklyn. You're not moving to Nassau County.
Mr. Suozzi, thank you. Mr. Mangano, I will give you 30 seconds.
He didn't answer the question at all. What's that?
Did you ignore the development?
Absolutely not. We have concentrated on bringing companies back to Nassau County. We have brought companies back with medium salary offering of $70,000 a year. I launched Nassau Works, smart application, 19,000 job opportunities there. Tom Suozzi forgets he had 8 years in office. He didn't accomplish any of this vision then. Why would you give him another chance? He hasn't done it. I've done it. We are bringing jobs here. He lost jobs. I brought jobs back. He had the highest unemployment rate in the region. I have the lowest unemployment rate in the region. You know, you need to look at the facts in this race, the accomplishments. He talks vision, but he had 8 years.
Sorry, your rebuttal time is up.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
And the facts are that in my time in office, my 8 years in office, I cleaned up the mess that was the worst-run county in the United States of America and put us on solid fiscal footing again and laid out a vision for the future. Mr. Mangano is putting us backwards. He's using the same shovel to dig us in a hole that Tom Galata did. And I'm going to have to clean up that mess.
All right, I was just going to give you 15 seconds there, Mr. Suozzi.
Thank you.
My friend Mike Zirinax has the next question.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you guys to get deep and personal for a moment. Now, even philosophical if you can, and really think deep on this one. A little selfish if you know, tough to do, but if you could. What was the best day of your life separate from your wives, your children, not the day your children were born, not the day you were married? We want to know your day, your achievement, your accomplishment. What was the day that is so meaningful to you?
Mr. Suozzi, you go first.
I have to think that when I won the Democratic primary in 2001 against Tom DiNapoli for county executive, everybody was against us. Tom DiNapoli is now supporting me for county executive. And nobody expected us to win. And it was a big victory. It was personally rewarding to me because it's something that I always dreamed of doing. And it gave me an opportunity to do what I've always wanted to do, to solve problems, to try and help people. And it was a very exhilarating night to win when nobody thought we could possibly win. And I remember my father was so proud. My father had run for county executive back in the 50s and had actually lost running for that office. And my father's my hero. He's 92 years old now, was born in Italy, World War II veteran, lived a great American success story. And it was very rewarding for me to share that moment with him.
Well, other than many other fine moments in my life was beating Tom Suozzi 4 years ago. You know, with all the odds against us, I had one line, you know, it was a very, very wonderful day, and I cherish it because the people of Nassau County gave me an opportunity to move Nassau County from the bad policies of the past to a brighter future. It's such a rewarding job. I love this job. I hope that the residents will see it fit, that I've earned their vote, so I can continue doing a job I truly love. I work at it 7 days a week. It's on my mind. It's just a really great moment in life, a great achievement, and a great, yeah, just a great opportunity bestowed on me by that many people. Very honored.
Mr. Mangano, considering suburbia started in Nassau County, Levittown, what do you think the biggest challenge is now facing modern suburbia?
There are great challenges, you know, because it was built at a time when you did have suburban sprawl. And now's the time to reinvent and relook at our communities and try to make the improvements that are necessary. You know, in many respects, Hurricane Sandy was the worst of times, but it gives us an opportunity now to rebuild smarter and stronger. So we have now 13 zones across Nassau County now that are looking to do exactly what you just brought up. How can we make our communities better? How could they be more transit friendly? How can we help the downtown districts grow? How can we encourage our young people to come back to these communities? And this is giving us a great opportunity to make that achievement. We've already started, as I told you, explained, we have 4 projects underway that I'm certain going to be very attractive to our young people here in Nassau County. We've turned the corner there. We must continue this progress. I worked with the federal government to bring money back to Lynbrook, Valley Stream, and Baldwin, so they can do exactly what we did in Mineola, Farmingdale, and Great Neck. So really, we've planted the seed. We have to keep watering it, and it will grow.
Mr. Suozzi, the biggest challenge facing modern suburbia?
It's no question that we've stopped growing. We were the fastest growing county in America after Levittown was built. We went from 400,000 people to 1.2 million people from 1950 to 1960. We had 1.5 million people in 1970. Today we're about 1.35, 1.4 million people. We need to grow not just for the sake of growth, but in order to create this environment that young people want to come here. In the old days, kids got married in their 20s. Now, if they get married, they get married in their late 20s, early 30s. So we have to create an environment that will bring them to it. People escaped from Brooklyn, came out to the great suburbs of Long Island, lived this great life, paid the high property taxes, educated their children. Their children went off to college. They graduated from college. They said, Mom and Dad said, hey, you coming back home? Say, no, I'm going to Brooklyn. We need to create, we see the city is rising with new construction, with crime going down, with parks being improved. Nassau County's in decline, with Mr. Mangano cutting the cops and cutting the programs, and at the same time, people not moving back here with a state control board in place taking over our finances. That was the city in the 1970s, where the state took over their finances.
Marcia Kramer has the next question.
Well, I'm wondering, gentlemen, should the 3-year wage freeze for Nassau County employees be lifted? Mr. Suozzi, why don't you go first?
Well, it's not going to be lifted until the county has a plan to solve the problems. The biggest savings in the Mangano administration was imposed upon him by an outside control board, NIFA. It saved $200 million. It's demoralized the county workforce, obviously.
But is it a good idea to lift it, and can it be lifted?
It's been good for us to save this money. It cannot be lifted until a plan is put in place. I will, in my first 90 days in office, lay out my plan to solve the financial crisis in Nassau County, as I did once before. I have a $100 million taxpayer savings plan on my website, www.suozzi2013.com, where I lay out specific savings like reducing the overtime, like collaborating, like getting rid of all these outside contracts that he's given away to his political friends, by trying to save money by collaborating and consolidating fleet maintenance. Nassau County can have a balanced budget again, but it's not going to happen if you increase spending by 145% of the rate of inflation, which Mr. Mangano has done, while only bringing in, well, strike that. He's brought in $100 million worth of fees. He's increased fees on every single thing that walks or talks in Nassau County. And he's increased everybody's property taxes because he's made a mess of the assessment system.
Thank you, Mr. Mangano.
Again, all lies and distortions, but that's been the
what was the lie and distortion? Tell us what you're talking about.
The basis of his campaign here. What was the question? I'm sorry.
Marcia?
The question was, do you think that the 3-year wage freeze for Nassau County employees should be lifted?
I got it. So listen, you know, he spends so much time on state and federal issues, he forgets, and this is how he lost his job here. He ought to pay attention. We have a comprehensive plan before NIFA right now to get concessions from the lucrative contract that he negotiated. The fact of the matter is those wage freezes will be lifted. They're under a under discussion now with a comprehensive plan before NYFA, but they're going to have to give back. They're going to have to make contributions to the lucrative pension system. They're going to make contributions to the health system. We pay $23,000 a year per employee just for the health. So these contributions are going to have to take place, and the wages will be restored.
Mr. Mangano, in 10 seconds, we're running out of time here. In 10 seconds, the best advice you did not follow.
The best advice I did not follow would be I went forward and asked the people of Nassau County as to whether they would like to retain the Islanders and do it at their expense.
Mr. Suozzi, the best advice you did not follow?
I focused way too much on government and not enough on politics, and I lost by 386 votes.
How about your hobbies, Mr. Suozzi? Do you have any hobbies?
I like to golf. I like to ride my bike. I like to go on hikes with my kids, with the dogs in the woods up in Nassau and Glen Cove. I like to go fishing.
Taking advantage of the area.
Fishing for striped bass.
Mr. Mangano,
well, I love to play with my 2 dogs, and certainly I'm a classic car enthusiast, and I love hanging out with that community. It's great.
Gentlemen, it is now time for our closing statements here today. And by coin toss, Mr. Mangano, you are first. 1 minute.
Sure. Well, it's certainly been an honor to join with you here today in this very lively debate. I'd just like the residents to focus on the issues, the accomplishments. He had an 8-year term. I had a 4-year term. During his 8-year term, he raised taxes 23%. He imposed an energy tax. He talked about a toll on the LIE. And at the end of that term, he left a $385 million deficit. I've cut taxes, repealed the home energy tax, 4 consecutive budgets without taxes going up. I have now the lowest unemployment rate in the region, the highest increase in growth in our sales tax revenue. People and jobs are returning to Nassau County. We must continue this progress. The policies that passed did not work. Our policies are working. I would ask you again, please, look at the record. I hope I've earned your support. I've lived up to my pledges, and I'd be honored with your vote this November 5th to vote for Ed Mangano so I can continue working with you to make Nassau County a better place to live, work, and raise a family.
Mr. Suozzi, your closing statement. 1 minute.
I really believe that Nassau County can be the best county in the country. I have a plan that will balance the budget, that will fix the assessment system, that will expand our downtowns and expand our tax base and attract young people here again. And you look at our records. I had 13 bond upgrades. Mr. Mangano's had 3 bond downgrades. He's on negative credit watch. I worked with NYFA. He's been taken over by NYFA. I reduced the borrowing. He increased the borrowing. Nassau County, under my administration, had 8 surpluses. He's had 2 deficits. That's why I've been endorsed by Newsday, the New York Times, every environmental group, President Clinton, and Governor Cuomo. Mr. Mangano's whole campaign is based upon the idea he didn't raise taxes, but everybody's school taxes have gone through the roof because of the mismanagement of the assessment system. He talks about the $65,000 raise that I received. He's taken the same money. And he tries to have a commercial now where he says that Governor Cuomo is in support of him. It's not true. Governor Cuomo has endorsed me. So please, on November 5th, vote for the future of Nassau County, because this campaign is really a fight for the future, for our families and for our children and for our grandchildren, to make Nassau County the best county in the country again. Thank you very much.
Ed Mangano, Tom Suozzi, gentlemen, thank you for being here. We hope that your constituents leave this hour better informed. And also, thank you to my colleagues, Marcia Kramer and Mike Zirinax from 880 Radio, and also the Fair Media Council, who helped us sponsor this event. We want to remind everyone that the general election is this Tuesday, November 5th. Of course, your vote counts. Thank you for joining us here today. I'm Christine Johnson.